This is everything you need to know about iOS 26. If any of you have been keeping track at home, or, can count, you've probably already noticed that the version number for iOS has jumped from 18 all the way to 26. Apple's going for a unified feeling across all of its OSs this year, so they now all share the same version number based on the following year. So since next year is 2026, all of Apple's platforms this year have the version number 26. Now with that out of the way, iOS 26 is supported on any iPhone from the iPhone SE 2nd gen and later. This year, Apple dropped support for the iPhone XS line, but Apple usually continues releasing software updates for older versions of iOS if they're needed. I've been testing iOS 26 for the past month now, and there's a lot of cool stuff coming to your iPhone this year, from making it much easier to deal with robocalls and telemarketers, to some helpful updates to Apple Intelligence, and most importantly, a brand new design material called liquid glass. Now, of course, phones serve the main purpose of communication, or for most of us they do anyway, so I'm glad to see some updates this year for messages and phone. Apple's trying hard to catch up to other platforms with messages, and they've made some more progress here in iOS 26, starting with these new backgrounds. There are some stock backgrounds available here, and you can also set your own images for the background too. A more useful feature coming to messages is polls, so you can get iMessage group chat members to vote, and anyone can add options to the poll too, in case all of the dinner options listed initially don't fit someone's tastes. The phone app gets this new unified design where all of your calls, including missed calls and voicemails, are mashed into one page. You can still switch back to the classic view though, in case this change gets as much hate as the Photos app did last year. Some really cool features coming in iOS 26 are Hold Assist and call screening. These have been on Android for a long time, but now iPhone users get to experience these quality of life improvements too. Starting with Hold Assist, anytime your iPhone detects hold music, it will automatically bring up this button to turn on Hold Assist. This feature mutes the call and puts it into the background so you can continue on with your day. Once an agent starts speaking, Siri tells them to wait for you to come back, and the phone will start ringing for you to pick it up. You can also tap the pickup button to jump back into the call at any time. And you can enable Hold Assist whenever you want by going into this menu at the bottom left. Unfortunately, if the place you're calling has a pre-recorded voice that says something every so often while you're on hold, this feature won't work very well because it'll hear what they're saying and ring you, thinking it's an agent. Hopefully this feature will get better over time, but that's something to keep in mind as of right now. The second feature here is call screening, which, when enabled, will silence all calls from unknown numbers first and pick them up for you in the background. The caller on the other end of the line hears this.
Hi, if you record your name and reason for calling, I'll see if this person is available.
And once they respond, you can see what they say, and your phone will ring you.
Thanks, Brad. Please stay on the
Now,
line.
the thing about this feature is that once telemarketers and scammers find out your phone number is active and answering calls, they will start to target you. But this feature is still helpful, especially if you're expecting a call from an unknown number, like if you're waiting for callbacks for a job. That way, you won't have to pick up every single spam call yourself until one finally ends up being a recruiter. So that's Hold Assist and call screening. Honestly, both of these features have been super helpful for me this past month, and I'm really glad they're going to be available finally for iPhone users. Lastly, for those of you who own iPhones that support Apple Intelligence, you can now enable live translation over calls, which will automatically translate what you and the other person on the end of the line say in these supported languages, and actually read the translation out loud for you. This also works in FaceTime as well, so it's a pretty cool feature. Next up, we've got some of my favorite updates in iOS 26 coming to Apple services like Maps and Apple Music. Starting with Maps, it now learns and shows you your preferred routes that you usually take on certain trips, and will alert you if there are delays on that route before you even leave, in case a detour takes a little longer than your typical trip. And this new Visited Places feature lets you kinda explore where you've been before, which is basically a clone of this Google Maps feature that has existed for a really long time. For Apple Music though, we're getting both some really helpful and really impressive features. To start, songs in certain languages can have their lyrics translated, so you can follow along with the music while seeing the meaning of the words. This hasn't been working for all of the songs I listen to, but when it is working, it's super helpful. Now, the coolest feature of them all, in my opinion, is called Auto Mix. This is like Apple's answer to Spotify's AI DJ, and I think they've done a really great job here. Automix is an AI-based feature, but it's available on all iPhones that support iOS 26, so that's great. Automix is like a better version of Crossfade that changes the tempo and EQ of your current song and the beginning of the next song to smoothly transition from one to the other. It doesn't work for all songs where a transition wouldn't sound good, but when it does work, it sounds super seamless. And a feature I think a lot of people around me are going to find helpful, songs in certain languages can have the pronunciations of the lyrics shown under them, so you can sing along with the music even if it's in a language you don't speak. This is all automatically generated, and so far it's been really accurate. Moving on from Apple Music, in reminders on Apple Intelligence-capable devices, you can now automatically categorize your reminders for better organization. This is essentially an expanded version of the grocery list feature that already exists on all iPhones from iOS 17 and later. In Photos, Apple has done this interesting halfway solution for all of the people who were complaining about the new Photos app in iOS 18 by adding 2 views in the app instead of just 1. Now, the app defaults back to your gallery, but you can tap Collections at the bottom here to get back to the mess that was the Photos app in iOS 18. On the other hand, a cool gimmick coming to Photos in iOS 26 on iPhone 12 and up is called Spatial Scenes, which lets you use basically any photo you've taken and create a 3D looking image out of it. Photos automatically cuts out objects in the foreground and fills in areas behind them using AI. The result is this cool effect that lets you turn your phone around as if the image was 3D. This is nice in Photos, but the feature really shines in the lock screen, where it also plays into the depth effect for the time. You can see here that the foreground is still shown in front of the time, and rotating your phone also creates these nice specular highlights along the digits of the time based on the 3D image. And now, when you plug your iPhone in to charge, you'll see the time it'll take for it to reach 80% in the lock screen. If you go straight to your battery settings, you'll see the time for 80% and 100% as well. Another Android feature, but still super helpful and definitely welcome on the iPhone. And last but not least, in the Clock app, you can now finally customize the duration of your snooze, so it's not limited to the 9 minutes it has been for literally forever. As for the helpful Apple Intelligence features on top of what I've already told you about, there's one more that works system-wide that builds on visual intelligence. Now, Androids again had something similar to this with their circle to search for a while, but I'm glad we get to use it on the iPhone now too. On devices with Apple Intelligence on iOS 26, when you take a screenshot, you're presented with this new view with some buttons on the bottom that let you either start a reverse image search on Google or ask ChatGPT. And with certain content that you screenshot, your iPhone can detect stuff like dates and times and give you the option to create events in your calendar based on that. These features also work with the camera if you have an iPhone 16 or later by pressing and holding on the capture button. And just like circle to search on Android, highlight to search in iOS 26 lets you highlight anything you want to target in the image, and it'll make a reverse image search just for that part of the screenshot. Finally, you can't talk about iOS 26 without talking about Liquid Glass, probably the most controversial change this year. Liquid Glass is the new material that's being used across all of Apple's OSs this year, which is supposed to mirror the Vision Pro with lots of transparent surfaces that help you focus on your content instead of buttons, search bars, or other UI elements that might clutter up your view. Now, reception so far to this redesign has been mixed at best. People either like this redesign or they hate it, and it's pretty understandable as to why, since Apple and most other companies' design languages have remained largely the same for so long. Most importantly though, when you start involving transparent stuff everywhere in your design, you immediately run into a lot of issues with readability, which Apple's been trying to fix throughout the past month I've been testing iOS 26. You can see here, for example, in Safari, the search bar changes to either light or dark mode depending on what's behind it, but sometimes it can be inconsistent and look a little weird. Or, if you swipe down to get to the lock screen, the wallpaper dims a lot to make your notifications more readable. In my opinion, I think Apple's new design is used pretty tastefully in certain places of iOS 26, and maybe not so much in others. When Liquid Glass is done well, it is super cool. For example, in stock Apple apps, buttons and menu bars are now circular to match the shape of your finger, and have this super responsive glowing effect when you tap on them. Plus, if you're switching app views, the Liquid Glass jumps up to move to your selection, which looks pretty cool. With elements like the magnifier, switches, and sliders, Liquid glass looks smooth and organic, stretching and contracting to follow the movement of your finger. And a little bonus with liquid glass sliders is that you can actually see precisely where the slider is set, rather than with flat design where the slider's handle is in the way of letting you get a precise view of where your slider is set to. My favorite effect here is when you're swiping up from the lock screen to get to the home screen, and the edge of the glass here has this super cool light bending effect that looks crazy realistic. It's totally overkill, but it just goes to show the attention to detail that's been put into the visual engine for liquid glass. You can hate on the new design as much as you want, but you can't deny that small details like this, when they're done well, look super cool. Apple's taking risks in some areas with this new visual refresh, while playing it safe in others. Icons are mostly the same, although they've been refreshed with the new material, and the structure of the lock screen, control center, and most other stock apps are really similar to iOS 18. Those are some of the most important, helpful features available now on your iPhone with iOS 26. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.